Good afternoon. Thank you for joining me again. And tonight this afternoon, we continue with A Course in Miracles, workbook lesson number 30. And again, let's just take a recap and go back to last week. Where did we end? Lesson 29, God is in everything I see. And this is really going into the non-dual realization. And why is God in everything I see? Well, because everything, the whole universe, is in the Son of God's mind who's dreaming. So the entire universe is the content of the dreaming mind, the dreaming Son of God's mind. And the dreaming Son of God is in God, and therefore everything is actually in God. And so God is in everything I see. And that sets us up for tonight's lesson, which is God is in everything I see, because God is in my mind, which is a true statement. God is everywhere, and mind is everything, capital M mind. But more accurately put, if you truly want to get a full non-dual grasp into this, is the Son of God is in God's mind. So the Son of God is an extension, is a thought extension of God's mind. Mind is all there is. So mind is another word for spirit or energy or essence. So God's mind is the energy of God, and therefore the Son is the extension energy of God's mind. And that Son of God, the Son of God, has fallen asleep and has dreamt up the universe. Universe is activity of the dreaming Son of God's mind, who is in God. And therefore everything is in God. And hence there's that wonderful lesson. It says everything is an echo for the voice of God. So imagine a screen. The characters on the screen are echoes of the screen, are appearances on the screen. Everything that appears in my dreaming, my Son of God dreaming mind. And I, the Son of God, is in God. And so everything is in God's mind. So what appears as physical is actually just a temporal projected perception. So in essence, as we'll read later on, we don't see with our eyes, we see through our eyes. Our eyes are projecting this onto the screen of awareness. People, places, things, and events. So what appears as physical is actually just pure light appearing as objects. And thus, because there's an appearance of objects and we're not aware that we're perceiving, projecting, we then think we, as appearances, temporal appearances, are observing the temporal, ethereal appearance of the world, the universe. None of it's true. We're all, both ourself, trees and potatoes, are simply activities in the dreaming mind. We don't have our own mind. We just think we do because we're filtering, we're basically decoders that are filtering the mind's thoughts. Each decoder seems to have its own program, activities, program, life, parents, family, active hobbies, jobs. And so the filter of the fearful thinking, dreaming mind is filtering through that decoder in what appears to be our own mind. And yet there is no own mind. We're all activities of one mind. And it says the idea for today is the springboard for vision. This is the beginning of realizing that we don't see with our eyes, we project with our eyes, and yet vision, which is the knowing of ourself as our shared essence with God. And it says here before, nor will what you saw before be even faintly visible to you. And what it's saying is, as we start to transcend seeing, ego seeing, we start to move into right-mindedness, which starts to become awareness of what? The knowing of. And so you start to realize the interconnectedness between everything. You're no longer attached to anything. You no longer have a possession, no longer have possessions. Whatever you have in your life, you just simply have as borrowed elements of space-time. And because nothing is yours, you're attached to nothing. You're connected to everything. And so this is the beginning of the fundamental understanding of what vision really is. Today we are trying to use a new kind of projection. So the fallen mind projects through its activities, the body minds, onto a screen, and then there's an appearance of, because of misperception, a misunderstanding of what we really are. We're projecting an illusion into the world. And so we're now not trying to get rid of what we appear to see. We're starting to realize what we're seeing is an outer reflection, an outer projection of an inner condition. We want to turn inwards. We want to understand cause and effect, that cause of a dreaming, sleeping mind that has forgotten that it is the Son of God projects a world, an illusion, a universe of separation. So it says here, instead we are trying to see in the world what's in our mind and what we want to recognize as there. So we're starting to realize that everything that appears to us is an opportunity for forgiveness. Every single activity, object, person, relationship, activity is simply an opportunity to forgive through the introspective self-inquiry, silent stillness, become aware of the thoughts, let the thoughts pop up, and sit with them, not try and mask them with activities or suppress them with activities or our mental tendencies, our unforgiven thoughts. And so we try and mask it, suppress it, and then get busy with activities and doing and learning. We even get into the spiritual doing, learning, the next satsang, the next retreat, the next spiritual book. And so we never really sit with those attack thoughts, emotions, sensations, feelings, which are all just thoughts filtering through the illusion of a body-mind. And so because we don't sit with them, we don't observe them, we don't ask to whom does this appear, from where do they come? So it comes simply from a mind asleep, a fearful mind asleep, trying to get the localization, the temporal, ethereal localization, which isn't real, body-mind illusion, to believe it's real, to believe it's having thoughts. And so because we don't sit in silent awareness, we don't ever get to expose the illusion. And so we stay trapped. We get very good at it. We get very good at regurgitating huge amounts of script, whether it be biblical or even Course in Miracles. We get a really strong intellectual understanding, and we can teach as if we really live it. And we really become like, the like art critics, for example, who have never painted a picture in their whole lives, but they watch the Picassos, and they learn about Picasso, and they learn about his strokes, and they learn about the paint he uses and how he sets up the canvas. And they can talk for hours as if they really understand the art. And they write books about it. They talk about it. The world tours, become famous for Picasso's artwork. And they've never ever drawn a sketch on a piece of paper. And that's really what not only the religious world, but definitely the spiritual world is filled with these false prophets. Meaning, what is a false prophet? Their intentions may be pure, but they don't live the knowingness of their being as the shared essence of God. They truly just, they get to the concept, and they're able to regurgitate huge texts and give great stories and great analogies and really even sound spiritual, and they dress spiritual. They dress like Picasso, and they speak of Picasso, and they've painted a picture in their life. And so be wary of those. I'd rather never listen to another YouTube video or read another book or listen to me ever again. Go sit with self. Go sit in the silent stillness and let all those thoughts come to the surface. And they try to tempt you. They're distracting you. Thoughts, feelings, sensations, emotions are ego devices imbued into the body-mind activities of the dream in order to distract you. Because that sense of unfulfillment, emptiness rises to the surface. We feel anxiety. We've got to do something. Clean the house, paint a picture, go shopping, get a new job, work on the computer, watch a YouTube video, watch a movie. We become distracted because the sensation feels uneasy. And yet those are the gifts of the Holy Spirit. the sensations of unhappiness, the sensations of anxiety, where we can't sit with it. We have to do something, phone a friend, have to be seen, have to be heard, have to be acknowledged, validated. What needs to be acknowledged, validated, seen? Ego. Sit with it, silent stillness. Invite the memory of God, the Holy Spirit, into your awareness. Let these sensations, thoughts, emotions rise to the surface. What are they showing you? They're showing you your unforgiven thoughts. They're showing you your attack thoughts. They're showing you how you have not realized that you've created this mess. You're trapped with the traumas of the past, reliving it in the present. And it comes back up and it doesn't feel well. And the trauma is an unforgiven thought that creates anxiety, that leads us to requiring justice, retribution. We want to transcend it by getting rid of it. Transcendence isn't getting rid of it. Transcendence is seeing it, realizing the lesson it brings, realizing the lesson isn't true. It's a story we made up before we project it into form. Forgive the story, forgive the lesson, forgive the unforgiven thought. Realize nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Transcendence. That is the fundamental difference between vision and the way we see. That's what we want. Not to be regurgitating. And so what do? We take a beautiful character 2,000 years ago who transcended it. And what do? We write book. We wrote a big, thick, black book, the Bible, about his life, as opposed to delving into his teachings and realizing what the man Jesus was trying to show us. He was trying to show us transcendence, the body-mind dissolving, ascension, the reappearance of a thought appearing in form. The Christ mind lives forever. And that is our shared essence, our shared being. That is the truth of what we are. And even with all the great intentions, all the loving intentions, what have we done again? Even in the Course in Miracles community, we've personified, projected, and externalized Jesus character, a Jesus that talks to us, when it's only the Christ mind sharing its awareness with itself, with its localized projections, which it made in vengeance. And yet a part of it's now awake, Christ mind. And so it's awakening its characters. The activities are dissolving. It's awakening to self. It's awakening to itself as its shared essence with God. Real vision is not limited to concepts of near far. The furthest star in the universe is in your mind. It's all in mind, your dreaming Son of God mind. Real vision is not only unlimited by space and distance, illusion of space-time, but it does not depend on the body's eyes at all. The mind is its only source, whereas Christ in the mind. What is Christ? The pure essence of the awake mind. What is Jesus? A character in the mind. What are you? A character in the mind. What is the difference between you and Jesus? The appearance of space-time. What's the difference between you and Jesus? The character Jesus awoke to the Christ self, the self shared essence with God. What are you doing? Awakening to that self shared essence with God. Look within, then without. Realize that the externalization of a world, a universe, is just filtrations of a mind asleep, awakening to itself. So we move on to lesson 31. And this is vital, Teachers for God. I'm not a victim of the world. I see why, because the world, the universe, is in our collective dreaming mind. We've invented it. And yes, we've been victims, or we've been the bullies of the world, whatever role you've played in your dream as a vital cog in the wheel awakening unto itself. You cannot be a victim of the world you see, because the world you see is a world you dreamt up. And so if you were a victim of this world, you were a victim by your own design. And imbued with the essence of God's Holy Spirit, the memory for God, that design became your salvation, because it became, as you turn inwards, became the path to your awakening from the dream. The idea, today's idea, is the introduction to your declaration of release. Again, the idea should be applied to both the world you see without and the world you see within. because the world you see without is based on a localization's interpretation of the world it appears in. So each one of us has an individual world, and we all see the world differently. And yet we may see a tree the same, but the experience of the tree is different because it's based on our perception of what we are. And based on what we think we are, we imagine a world. And once we understand the source of our self, true self, we'll understand what we really are, and thus what we're really seeing. It says, in applying the idea, we will use a form of practice, which will be used more and more with changes as indicated. It's a practice of directing self-inquiry. Generally speaking, the form includes two aspects, one in which you apply the idea on a more sustained basis. I'm not a victim of the world I see. And the other consisting of frequent applications of the idea throughout the day. Whenever something comes up that triggers the trigger, nothing triggers the trigger that triggers you. Everything in this world triggers the trigger because everything is the trigger projected. What's the trigger? The fallen asleep, separate self. That is the trigger. Does your heart hurt when someone dies? No. Does your heart break when someone leaves? No. Your ego breaks. The heart is the self. No one dies to self, to the true self, capital S self. They only die to the little egoic self. And so the self never feels like a victim, never feels shame, never feels anger, because the self is pure love. It is the temple. And so there's practice periods. We're not going into this. We're just going into the fundamentals because you're practicing this on your own. I just want to bring another non-dual way of looking at it. You will escape from both outer and inner world together. For the inner is the cause of the outer. It's your belief about what you are and what your source is, what God is, that creates the experience of you, your inner world, believing what's going on in what you call your mind, your thoughts, and it's then projected through your eyes and you think it's your reality. And because it happens so quickly, it then comes back at you, you think it's happening to you. Projection makes perception, which validates your projection, which reinforces your perception, which again then becomes your prediction and becomes a self-fulfilling illusionary prophecy. And so as you survey your inner world, realize it's really it's the content of the film that gets projected through your eyes and hence the world you see. And it's a very important instruction here. Try not to establish any kind of hierarchy amongst them. Watch them come and go. Thoughts, self-inquiry, watch them come and go. Don't attach. Don't get caught in conversation with the thoughts or the ideas, especially when they're trapped in the past and thoughts of hurt and pain and suffering. Someone said something ugly. Someone said something abusive. Someone try to make you feel little. It's all happening in your dream mind. Watch them come and go. Here's a key word, dispassionately, non-attached as possible. Be dispassionate about the world. Live in it, not of it. Realize you're dreaming. And while you're here only to know thyself, to be thyself knowingly. The purpose of this world is only to show us what we are through the experience of what we're not. What we want, the kingdom of heaven, through the experience of what we don't want, the neti-neti. And so gracefully, we are given space, time, matter to self-realize. That's the only purpose of this world. Do not dwell on anything particular, but try and let the stream move on an evenly and calmly without any special investment in anything in this world. As you sit quietly, silent stillness, watch your thoughts. And as they bring up, forgive. Holy Spirit, what are they showing me? Holy Spirit, memory of God in me, the memory of what I am and what I share with my Father. Show me what this is. Bring the corrective principle, the light of awareness that shows us our thoughts are not real. In addition, repeat the idea as often as it happens. So whenever you're starting to feel that trigger, I'm not a victim of the world I see. I can see this a different way. And in your freedom lies the freedom of the world. Why? Because when you realize that the world isn't real, when you realize you're but an activity in the dreaming mind, you no longer attach. You start to take responsibility for being the Son of God, the dreaming mind. And as you free this body-mind activity from ever having to repeat the lesson and play the reincarnation game. You free yourself and you let the essence of self return to the light within return to the light of the Christ mind. And there's no more need for a character like you to ever appear in the dream again. This is a declaration. I am free. I am not a body. I am free. I'm still as God created me. I, the dreamer, choose to no longer dream. And this character, which I projected as an activity of my dreaming mind in order to try and remember what I am through the experience of what I'm not, now that activity self-realizes, becomes the light in the dream of awakening. The character disappears, the light returns and lights up. One more light awakens in the mind, and every mind that is lit lights up the dream, so that the character started to see through the veil of illusion of their own dreaming mind. And I'm not a victim of the world I see. Why? I've invented the world I see. And so people, in the illusion, we love inventors, the great people of this world that create the great things of this world, the rocket ships that go to Mars. Must we be Elons? And yet the lessons are there for him through his making manifest his dream illusions. Oh, we've got to dream big, be big, achieve, become a billionaire. Stop dreaming. You've dreamt of this entire universe. How much more do you want to dream? Let go of the dream. You've invented the world you see, and each little localization thinks it sees its own world in its own different way, hoping to connect. And that's why we invent religious paths, because we try and impose our belief onto everyone else. Let it go. And we're doing the same in A Course in Miracles. We're trying to teach our own way and claim to be the authority on. And now we have a foundation, and they want to be the authority, and no one else must read the book. And we go back into power and into dogma. And who needs power but those who feel powerless? Because they have no sense of self. When you have a sense of self, you want to share all of it with everyone. And so in this lesson, we continue to develop the theme of cause and effect. Causation is a sleeping mind. Effect, the world, the universe. You are not the victim of the world you see, because you've invented it. You've dreamt it up. You've made manifest. You can give it up as easily as you made it up. Problem is, like I've said so many times before, our fear is not the fear of death. Our greatest fear, not the fear of death. The fear is of never having existed at all. That's why we love the illusionary story of this world and the spirit world. Hell, I wrote 2 books on it because I did 3,000 regressions, and people attest under regression that there is another world we return to. Yes, but both worlds, the spirit world and this world, are both constructs of a dreaming mind. The little Red Riding Hood wear a red hood. Yes. Is that a fact of the story? Yes. Is the story true? No. Is there a spirit world in this illusion? Yes, it's a fact. In this illusion, there's a world, there's a sun, there's a universe, there's a spirit world. That's a fact of the illusion. But the illusion's not true. Let it go. No more stories. Are chakras true? Are energy points in the body true? Well, that's a fact in the story. It's true in the story. Is the story true? No. Are there chakras? No. Is there a spirit world? No. Is there a kundalini? No. So because it's a fact in a story doesn't make it true if the story isn't true. And so stop telling your story and thus reinvesting in our stories of suffering, separation, or whatever we believe our story is. Oh, in my story, I can never seem to find love. That's your story. Stop telling that. In my story, all men are misogynists. Then they will be. In my story, all women are bitches. Then they will be. In my story, all men are abusers. Then they will be. In my story, all women are cheats. Then they will be. In my story, all corporate companies are the Illuminati or the cabal, whatever. Then that's what it is for you. Let it go. Let the light of awareness. Stop painting your canvas thinking you're going to create a Picasso. Give it back to God and watch the miracle. The idea today, like the preceding ones, applies to inner and outer worlds because they're actually the same. Do you realize whatever you believe is what you see? However, since you see them as different, practice periods will again include two phases, inner world, outer world. It's the same. In today's exercises, try and introduce the thought that both are in your own image, imagination, image making. That's what this world is, image making. Every person is an ethereal appearance of the dreaming Christ's mind through which the world universe seems to appear. None of it's real. Treat them both as equally, try to treat them both as equally possible. Realize, inner and outer. If I heal those thoughts, those unforgiven thoughts, I see a healed world. I see a new world, a happy dream. And that's the transition phase, because you have to start to realize a happy world to realize the inner shift, because you only realize what you are when you start to witness the mirror showing you what you are. Watch the images of your imagination, what it presents to your awareness. You don't have a single thought, you have awareness. The activities in the mind, the minute you capture them, appear to be thoughts. Thoughts are just interruptions of awareness. You are pure awareness. You are pure mind, pure awareness. And while you dream, while you're asleep, while your eyes are closed, awareness is interrupted with the idea of fear thoughts. And yet when you release, when you've forgiven those fear thoughts, when there's nothing more to forgive, what remains? The pure awareness of being awareness. It's the joy you feel when you think you've accomplished something. You think you've captured something, you've achieved something, you bought something, you own something, you're happy. No, mind stops searching. And what comes into the surface, into the all-pervading awareness itself. That's what you are, Holy Son of God. So remember, you can apply the same lesson to any situation. Let's say you have a hurtful relationship with a spouse, a brother, a mother, a sister, a friend, a boss, a colleague, and it's on this little hamster wheel of repeat. Change jobs, and someone else takes on the role. Repeat. Change countries, someone else takes on the role. Repeat. Why you haven't forgiven it? So it's going to keep coming your way until you forgive those thoughts. Sit, watch, observe. Don't capture. Bring them into awareness. Let the light of awareness dissolve the illusionary thoughts appearing in form. And then onto workbook lesson 33. There's another way of looking at this world, but for God's sake, excuse the pun, don't imagine another way of seeing it. Don't go to another retreat and now you're going to apply the XYZ process of transcend. Please don't do that. Because it's got you into trouble in the first place. How many times have you changed modalities and courses and directions and belief systems? Let them all go. There's another way of looking at the world, but don't you for 1 second imagine what it should be. How many times are you going to mess this up before you realize not a single person in this entire world has a cooking clue? Watch closely the great teachers, the Mujis, Ramana Maharishi, Papaji. Jesus didn't teach a single process. He just said, go sit quietly, surrender to the Father, be thyself knowing. Gave you the instructions, go look, go find it. Didn't tell you how to, didn't tell you where to, except turn within. Try go within. That's it. The great teachers don't tell you, a 7-day plan. This is not Alcoholics Anonymous 12-step process to figuring out why you've been an asshole. Just be silently still. Don't try and figure it out. You can't figure it out. You're an activity of a dream that has no idea it's dreaming. How are you going to figure it out? You're in the maze of the maze you made. Don't be amazed. Let it go. Who am I coming up with this stuff? Jesus spoke to me. Today's idea is an attempt to recognize that you can shift your previewing of the world in both its outer and inner aspects. The world you see is an outer projection of an inner condition. alternate between surveying your outer and inner perceptions without an abrupt sense of shifting. You realize it's the same. What I believe is what I see. What I see is what I believe. You are a manifester of biblical proportions. There's nothing you can't manifest, Holy Son of God, but what manifestation has ever made you happy? Just extend thyself knowingly, lovingly. Why lovingly? Because that's the essence of what you are. God's love. What is lovingly? Unconditional acceptance of what is. Accept. The minute you're in judgment, the minute you're in resistance, the minute you think it should be better, the minute you think there's something outside that's going to make you happy, another holiday, another adventure, another job, another career, another person, another car, hey, it's just all outer projections of the same inner faulty condition. I'm asleep and I know not what I am. Remain equally uninvolved in both and maintain this detachment, non-attachment. Be dispassionate about the world. Non-attachment is the key to liberation. But realize you're connected to all of it because all of it's in your mind. So you can't push away, hide under a rock. You're not a scorpion. You live in a cabin off the grid. The whole world is the grid in your head. The whole universe is the grid in your mind. You can't escape it. Transcend it by understanding it's not true. It's not real. You've made it up in order to not face the fact that you're asleep. Realize, hey, just say to God, and God doesn't mind if you use this language. Dear God, I fucked up. I fucked up, dude. I'm really sorry. What was I thinking? That was the problem I thought I could think. So show me another way. Holy Spirit, show me another way. Well, don't know the way, so don't imagine it. Just go be still. Let it come to the surface and practice forgiveness. And if it hasn't stopped attacking you, it's because you haven't fully forgiven it. You haven't fully understood that you are the making manifester of all the shit that's ever happened. It's all you, Holy Son of God, as a localization, as 8 billion localizations, as 9 septillion localizations spread throughout the universe. It's all you. You're as much as the sun as you are the planet Zeus and as the planet whatever. You, all of it, every single star in the universe is an activity of your dreaming mind. Yes, the sentient localization, be thyself knowingly. Know that the essence of what you are, the truth of what you are, your spirit, your shared being, your Holy Spirit is the shared being of God's Holy Spirit. Your essence is God's essence. Even in the localization, the essence is the same essence as the dreaming mind. The reason why so many non-dualists struggle at some stage, at that final point of transcendence, is because they say stupid things like, God is dreaming. No, he's not. How would you know God is dreaming? Because your own experience? No. The best you can know is self. Self is dreaming. Self is dreaming in God. If God is dreaming, we would be buggered. We'd be here forever. There is another way of looking at this. Give God back the blank canvas. The sun, the extension of God, is dreaming. And so when you realize the extension is dreaming, that means that the extension can be pulled back into its source, God, which has never had a single moment of dream. It's the sun, the extension which dreams. Extension returning to source and then extends again. Why? From the pureness of source, from the pureness of unconditional love. Blank canvas. That's the only way. Silent stillness, abide. Abide in God. Abide in silence. The temple, the heart. Symbolic. There's no temple here. The chest, there's a heart, there's all sorts of stuff in there. Lungs and bones. None of it true. So workbook lesson number 34, I could see peace instead of, what I could see a piece of. Peace is the foundation of joy, and joy is the movement of peace. And when joy moves and peace is known, what is those two together? That triangulate love. And what is love? God. God is peace. God is love. God is joy. God's essence is love. God's essence is peace. God's essence is joy. And therefore, if God's essence is love, peace, and joy, the essence, which is the extension of God's essence, is I. I am that essence. That essence is joy. That essence is that which I seek, that which I want. I seek ye first the kingdom. That's what I want. I want to know myself as that which is the extension of that which is God. Peace of mind is clearly an internal matter, because until it is, it cannot be known. Because when it's known, remember, you're projecting through these in the dream. You'll continue to project, but now you'll see peace. The new dream, the happy dream, right-minded dream, miracle-mindedness. It must begin with your own thoughts and then extend outward, because you are permanently extending, for you are the extension of that which is permanently extending, God, the eternal extension of the now. It is from your peace of mind that a peaceful perception of the world arises, because it is always at peace, but because you're filtering it through your ideas of separation, there's always something killing something. There's always something chasing something. There's always something wanting something, not realizing what you want is what you realize you don't have. And wanting means the resistance of what is. And when you want, when you desire, it eludes you. It'll even give it to you for a little while, 11 minutes at a time, only to elude you later on, because it's then what gets you chasing, wanting more, diverting your attention through emotions, sensations, feelings, thoughts, never being still, realizing having and being are one. All applications should be done with your eyes closed when you practice this one, because then you start to realize, oops, see, oh, look at that, I see it, it's all here. It's not in there, it's there is in here too. So search your mind for fear thoughts, anxiety-provoking situations, offending personalities or events, or anything else about which you are harboring unloving thoughts, resistant thoughts, unforgiven thoughts. Note them casually, repeating the idea for today. And let this go. I can see peace instead of this. So if you're in a dead-end job, you don't like your career, a dead-end relationship, I could see peace. Don't look for another person to replace the person you're with. You're just going to find another repeat action replay. Shag, marry, kill. Game 2. I could see peace in this situation instead of what I now see. How? Non-judgment is the key to liberation. Non-judgment. And what comes before non-judgment? Forgiveness. Forgive, meaning no more judgment. Non-judgment, forgiveness, one and the same thing. One appears to be before, one appears to be after. But non-judgment is the key to liberation, is the key to right-mindedness. You can't move into right-mindedness while you judge self and the world you think you see, because it's all in your mind. When you start judging the thoughts, don't go, oh, I wish I hadn't. Don't do that. You fucked it up on purpose, and the Holy Spirit let you so that you could get to this point and realize, let it go. And of course it had to affect you. Of course it had to be meaningful people you hurt, or were hurt by you, or hurt you. Because if it was just a stranger, it wouldn't mean anything. It had to. And strangers just mean a reason to get angry. Stranger, have you noticed the word anger in stranger? Get angry. But man, you get more angry at people closest to you. Why? Because they're meaningful, that you want it to have meaning. If the inroads on your peace of mind take the form of more generalized adverse emotions, such as depression, anxiety, or worry, use the idea in its original form. I could see peace instead of this. Any form of mental illness is really high resistance of the egoic mind, localized as depression, pressed upon, depress I on, depress myself onto the situation. You could be rid of all of this. Dr. Hugh Len, Ho'oponopono, was prime example of someone that practiced forgiveness, didn't even see the patients face to face, and the entire hospital of mentally insane, criminally insane people were healed. Fact in the dream. I can replace my feelings of depression, anxiety, worry, or any thoughts about the situation, personality, event, person, place, people, event, with peace. But don't imagine it. You're going to dream it all up again, and just now imagine perhaps a lesser form of evil, but it's evil as in a sleep projection. Let it go. Hand the canvas back to God. Show me another way to see this. The greatest prayer you'll ever do. And now we move on to a wow lesson, which is lesson 30 repeated in a slightly different way. This workbook lesson number 35. My mind is part of God's. I am very holy. It's now saying I, first mover, dreamer. I am an activity in God's mind, the Son of God. So all of these activities are projections of my mind asleep. And yet when I awaken, these projections dissolve and I self-realize as the extension of God's unconditional loving mind. My mind is part of God's. I am very holy. Why? God is holy. God is spirit. Holy Spirit. Today's idea does not describe the way you see yourself now. It does, however, describe what vision will show you, vision in a sight. When you stop imagining, stop dreaming, stop projecting. It is difficult for anyone who thinks he is in this world to believe this of himself. So be careful not to cast your pearls upon swine, your pearls of non-dual understanding. Be that rather. Don't go and start blah, blah, blah. Don't become another minister, another preacher, another trying to convert whatever apostle. Please don't. The world's got enough of these fools adding vice. There's enough vices in the world. Be thyself knowingly. Be the light. People will come. Don't give advice unless someone asks. And then be careful that you're not projecting your advice onto them. Non-judgment is the key to liberation, self, and the appearance of your fractured selves as others. Yet the reason he thinks he's in this world is because he does not believe it. They refuse to believe they're dreaming. They want to believe that God made them, put them there. A vengeful God created you in sin. What chances of you ever coming out? They want to believe that. You're born in original sin. How is that possible? Are you responsible for the sins of your father, your grandfather, your great-grandfather? No. How can you be responsible for what Eve and Adam did? No, they'll come up with some bullshit story to make you feel guilty because they need that. The church needs that. The church needs that in order to make you feel guilty. You go to church every Sunday, pay your tithing so church can grow, make money, feed all those priests and nuns. Why? Because they don't have no clue on how to make a living for themselves. So they dedicate their lives to God for a free meal. Can't you dedicate your life to God while you work and feed others too? It's just an excuse. Religion is the antichrist. What does antichristos mean in Latin? Antichristos. So before the Christ. What's religion? Antichrist. What is Christ? Be here now. No religion. No dogma. No spirituality. Spirituality is just a lame excuse for avoiding going to church every Sunday, but still connecting to God somehow. It's the same nonsense. Throw it all away. This is vital. Key to the non-dual understanding. Let's go slowly on this. You will believe that you are a part of where you think you are. You think you're a person in the world, created by a God outside you, shoved down here to go and spend your fight coins in the best possible way. Well, then it's you, subject, God, object. If you realize you're an activity in the dreaming son of God's mind, who is the extension of God's mind, then you are the self-same essence as God, because you are the self-same essence as his son, the dreamer, and therefore you're an activity of the son, whose self-same essence is that of God. We are one with that, which is source God, God's Holy Spirit. And so I can never leave. Where's the idea of sin now? Where's the idea that I can suffer? Let me go. Let me go. Let me let go of all these concepts, ideas, beliefs, feelings, sensations. These are filters. Let go, let go, let go, let go, let go. That is because you surround yourself in an environment you want. If I want to know myself as the extension of God's love, then I surround myself with the conscious awareness of that which is God's love, the only thing which exists. And you'll want to protect the image of yourself that you have made. So how about holding on to that thought? I am as God created me. I'm not a body, I am free. The image is part of its environment. What you see while you believe you are in it is seen through the eyes of the image. This is not vision. Images cannot see, bodies cannot see, they're projectors. And so if you realize, Holy Son of God, that you're an activity in your own dreaming mind, your Holy Son of God's dreaming mind, then awaken to self, Spirit, Holy Self, Holy Spirit, Holy Son of God, and realize that this localized projection is just a thought appearing in form to that which forgot what it is, in the hope that that thought taking form would realize what it is and therefore awaken the dreamer. We are activities of the mind awakening to itself. And as the Son of God remembers itself, himself, as that which is the extension of God's love, all the characters in the dream dissolve, the universe dissolves in the light, Christ-minded awareness. Images are simply ethereal appearances of body minds through which the dreaming mind sees the contents of his dream. Know yourself as separate, see a separate world, divided, at war with itself. Know yourself as the extension of the love of God in the dreamer's mind. Awaken to self, awaken to God. The idea for today presents a very different view of yourself. It's a view of the capital S self. By establishing your source, God, it establishes your identity. Because what can you be but an extension of source? And it describes you as you must really be in truth, the extension of God's essence, Holy Spirit. You are Holy Spirit, Holy Son of God. We will use a somewhat different kind of application for today's idea because the emphasis for today's lesson is on the perceiver rather than what he perceives. I am what is. And what is experienced by the what am. What is, I am. If I am a body mind, I perceive the world as an extension of my projection, not realizing I'm projecting. If I realize I am the I am that I am. I am awareness or being aware of itself. I am awareness, which is the essence of God's unconditionally loving Holy Spirit. I am that I am. And everything there is a temporal, ethereal misprojection of a mind that fell asleep, awakening unto self, awakening unto its Father, unto its source, realizing the light of awareness as that I am. So remember, it says here, include all ego-based attributes which you ascribe to yourself, positive or negative, desirable, undesirable, grandiose or debased. All of them are equally unreal. The ego mind loves to trap you in good and bad egos, right and wrong egos. And these two conflict. You're neither nor. If there's conflict, you're in the wrong mind. You're in the ego mind. Let go, let God. Be silently still. Zero conflict. Forgiveness only. Gratitude. Great attitude. Gratitude. A great attitude gives you gratitude. All of them are equally unreal because you do not look upon yourself through the eyes of holiness. You realize everything is holy. Everything is an echo. And you realize self, the projectionist. Very vital here. Be careful that you will probably emphasize what you consider to be the more negative aspects of your perceptions of yourself. The victims always beat themselves up. The bullies always beat up the world and inflate themselves up. Same thing, self-inflating or self-degrading. Ego tendencies. Don't think one is better than. Oh, a humble life where I beat myself up. That's ego. Oh, look at me. I'm so powerful. So ego. Grandiosity, littleness. Be the grandeur of God's essence, shared essence. Love is the absence of being bodies. Love is the substrata on which everything exists, upon which everything exists. So yeah, it gives you the different lessons. You'll see the ones are highlighted in green, victim egos. The ones in blue, victor egos. Victims and victors, victors and victims. Two illusory sides of the same dreaming, wrong-minded ego. Let go of both. Let them both go. After you've named each one, each attribute that you think is you, let go and realize my mind is part of God's mind, and therefore it's an extension of God's mind, and therefore I am Holy Spirit. My mind is holy because God's essence is holy, and as God extended his essence and created me, the sonship, me, the son in the sonship, so the sonship is God's essence too, holy. No ego, right mind as an extension of God's mind. That brings us to lesson 36, today's lesson. My holiness envelops everything I see. It's the screen on which everything appears. Holiness, essence, spirit, shared being with God. My holiness envelops everything I see. Why? Because my holiness is the extension of God's holiness. My essence, my holiness, holy essence, Holy Spirit essence, Holy Spirit self, Son essence. Same thing. Is the extension of God's holy essence, and it envelops everything. And even though I'm dreaming and I see there's activities in my dreaming mind, I am in God, and so everything is holy because everything is in God. Today's idea extends the idea for yesterday. From the perceiver to the perceived, you are holy because your mind is part of God's. You are part of God's mind. And because you are holy, your sight must be holy as well. If you leave it to the Holy Spirit, the memory of God in you, to show you what is true. People, places, things, and events, objects and events dissolve. And what do you see instead? The light of awareness, the light of the same self, shared essence of what we are. Sinless means without sin. You cannot be a little without sin. You are either sinless or not. Now, God's holy Son, God's holy essence is perfect. And perfect means without sin forever, eternally in the eternal now. Eternal now, God forever. If your mind is part of God's, you must be sinless. Or a part of his mind would be sinful, preposterous. Hence, there is no such thing as a Satan, as a devil. All Satan and devil is an outer personification, an outer projection of an ego condition. There could never be such a thing as a hell. Never. Because it would have to exist in God. And God is pure love, unconditional. Pure love, unconditional. Hell does not exist. Only churches and religions need a hell in order to keep their fearful followers in line and tithing every month for forgiveness, to appease a vengeful idea of a God. Your sight is related to God's holiness, not to your ego, and therefore not to your body. Body dissolves, light of awareness extends, God's light of awareness. And so your holiness envelops everything. Everything, once you realize everything is an extension of that which is the extension of God, the Son extending, then you realize everything becomes an echo, a mirror for the miracle, the light of awareness awakening in all our fractured selves as the selves return to the Christ mind and the dreamer awakens. I hope this makes clarity, the non-dual clarity of the Christ mind, realization all is God. God is love. Love is the light in which I see. God is the light in which I see. We are one. All fractures will dissolve in the light of the oneness awareness, the atonement at one-ment, as the Son awakens unto himself, realizing he has never left his Father's kingdom. Amen. Let's stop there.